Greetings, Tanya Ridley here. Time for change, dropping gems. Time for change consulting to be exact. Welcome. Mrs. TFC is in the building. Baby is in the building. She getting on my nerves today, so I just had her sit right here. So don't mind her. But I definitely wanted to make sure that I came on because I know last time we were talking about work transitions, and you cannot have work transitions without human resources, do's and don'ts. Things that you need to understand, things that I had learned over time, had to pay attention to very strategically, things that I had to learn over time to not ignore. I want to share that with you all. I think it would be great for us to communicate and talk about this so that way you all are in the loop, you are hip, and you know exactly what's going on, because human resources is the number one thing. When I was talking about that legal stuff, it's the number one thing that businesses have to worry about. Hiring practices, especially like in small cleaning businesses or in, just any type of business that might be very small and unique, or might not have a lot of people. A lot of people think that you don't need the human resources and the practices that I had talked about last time, but you do need those practices. So it's very important for me to break it down a little bit more. I know last time we talked about policy. We talked about the things that you need to have in place, and that's great, right? But I want to make sure that you not only have those things in place, but that you know what to do and pay attention to and not, because this is the clinician's perspective of business. So I'm all about policies and I'm all about procedures and following the procedures. And we talked about that, but I'm also about the mental that you need to pay attention to, because sometimes things just happen and you be like, oh, I didn't even see that coming. So I'm going to talk to you about the things that you need to see coming. I'm going to talk to you about the do's and don'ts. I'm going to school you and give you all of that. You always need a worker. So entrepreneurs are great. Everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. Everybody wants to be a boss, right? And I say that everybody wants to be a boss because you have to pay strategic attention to those individuals that work for you that want to be a boss. You have to know how to be a boss, but you have to also understand how to work, right? So even though I'm a boss, I still have a boss, which is DC governments, which is, PG County government, which is all of the government and agencies that are giving me contracts. They're trusting me to do a job. So as an entrepreneur, you cannot forget that you're still a worker. You're still a worker. You're just a worker at a different level. Okay. So, and you want to make sure that you keep that in perspective, because like I said last time, when I dropped the gem, if you follow policies and procedures, if you're good at following policies and procedures and seeing things and making it into your own, then you're already 2 steps ahead of the other person, because a lot of times you're going to see stuff, right? And you need to adapt it to your model of your things of what you need to do. So human resources and work transitions are hand in hand, but I'm just going to talk a little bit more about the clinician's perspective, right? So that you can have an understanding of the mental that goes into making some good decisions and not making some good decisions when it comes down to this. Okay. All right. So let's see what we got going on here. All right. So we talked a little bit about hiring and recruiting, right? So you want to make sure that you are with those job descriptions, and we can talk a little bit more about that, but with the job descriptions, you want to make sure that you are doing everything in your power to make sure that your job descriptions, to make sure that they have what they have in it. So that way, remember, when people transition and we change, that you're growing as you change and you're putting the things into your job descriptions that you need to put in, right? So without a doubt that you're doing what you need to do to make sure that everybody knows their job, okay? So everybody needs to know their job, point blank, period. You need to be crystal clear on your job descriptions. You can have other duties as assigned, but like I told you, as you transition, you need to make sure that you're still adding those things and still doing what you need to do, okay? Inside of the job description. Don't leave things out. You want to make sure that you're focusing on the qualities and the everything, the qualifications, the skills and stuff like that. Remember, I was talking about like the little things that you notice that the person knows how to do, don't know how to do. Like you want to put it in your job description, but is it trainable? Are you able to train that person, or do you need them to be the expert thereof? Right? So making sure that you're paying attention to all of those things. Verifying references. So I don't care how small your business is. You've got to verify references. Jim. Point blank, period. I don't care how small your business is. You need to verify references. You need to do the background checks. You need to do the drug testing. Whatever it is that you're signed up to do in your contracts for your onboarding, you need to do. Don't make no exceptions for anybody. Somebody will mess up your business. So don't make any exceptions for nobody. Everybody has to do the same thing for your company every single time in the onboarding step. And we talked about that, but I'm going to stress it because, you know, a lot of people hire friends. A lot of people want to do somebody a favor, do somebody a solid. Yeah, no. You need to be making sure that you're paying attention to that and giving the person the opportunity the same way how you would give it to the next person. Nobody is going to be able to work for you and just work for you without doing the same things or following the same policies and procedures. Okay, so I want to make sure that y'all keep up with that. So you have to ensure fairness and quality in all of your hiring processes. These are all the things that you should do. Now, I said a little bit about don't. So don't inside of my do's. So don't. So making hiring decisions based on assumptions or personal bias. Oh, I think this person is going to do a real good job. It's been plenty of people that come to me and tell me that this person is going to do a real good job. But if I interview them and they don't interview well, then they don't get the job. I mean, time for change, it just is what it is. If you just don't interview well. And it's no offense to anybody else. It's just you have to present a certain type of way to make sure that you execute for a job. I don't care if I know such and such from such and such, or know this person, or they're linked to you who does do a good job for me, or they're linked to you who worked for me for a lot of years and you want me to check them out because you think that they would be a good person. No. Okay. Don't ask inappropriate questions or discriminatory interview questions. So yeah. Now we have a culture here at Time for Change. So a lot of things that I might look at as something that I don't want in my company, I have to develop a policy for it. And guess what? Everybody has to do it. So it's a certain way, like, even any piercings, body piercings or whatever that's on the outside of the face. That's something that is in my policy, because a lot of times we have people that are clicking on their teeth, or, their piercings might be distracting to the camera, a glare. So you have to wear retainers and stuff at Time for Change to make sure that you are not being a distraction. All right. So little things like that. So you don't want to ask those questions on the interview, but when you do offer the job, you want to make sure that you tell them, like, this is one of the policies. Are you going to be okay with it? Some nursing facilities, right? You have to have short, neutral tone nails. I tell the students that off the break, like, do you have a problem with that? Because this is the career. You're going to have a problem with that now. You still going to have a problem with that later. You need to watch out. Like, you know what I'm saying? It is what it is. You don't want to rush to recruit because of staffing pressure. So like when I have, a vacancy, I'm not rushing to recruit. I told you, we suck in so that we could figure those things out. And then we try to develop a better job description so that we can make sure that we're presenting the way how we need to present the job. And, then we take our time and hire. Nothing is rush when it comes down to human resources. If it is, it's going to be a disaster. I'm just going to let you know. Lived it. I've been in business for 10 years. Lived it, done it. So make sure that you take your time and hire strategically. Yeah. And don't ignore the candidate experience. Like, really take into account the person's experience. Usually the references, I ask for specific references for the jobs. Like, let's say if somebody's job was a while ago, right? But they had applicable skills and they interview well and I want to consider hiring them, I have to get a reference from that particular job because it's related to time for change job. Does that make sense? Gem. All right. So making sure that if a person applies to the job and let's say they had previous experience, you want to make sure that you get a reference from that previous experience. Don't just assume that you're just going to be okay with just getting whatever it is from that person. You want to make sure, the last 3 professional references. No. You need the references from the places that are applicable to the actual job that you have posted. Gem. All right. Don't make that mistake. Don't just say, oh, just give me 3 references. No. And you need to make sure that they're professional references from the jobs that's actually on the resume. So don't forget that. Every decision that you make in the human resources shapes your organizational future. So it shapes how long you're going to have that employee. So I always would ask someone like, how long do you see yourself working here? Like, where do you see yourself in the next 3 to 5 years? It's very important for you to ask those types of questions. Now, I know if you are early on entrepreneur, you ain't think about none of these questions, but I'm telling you, me being an entrepreneur and a vocational counselor at the same time, and me being able to develop these interview questions made my company stronger from the beginning. So don't think that I'm just saying this stuff. I'm telling you this. This is for the entrepreneur that is 10 years old to the entrepreneur that's 1 year old. You start how you finish. So you make sure that you start the way how you need to finish, because if you don't, you're setting yourself up. So you might as well start thinking about what are some of the things that you want in your culture. Okay, this is all about your workplace culture. How do you want? Who do you want? What do you want to be working around you? Okay, what do you want to be representing you? You want to make sure that you have employee onboarding. We already talked about that, so I'm not going to drill that one. But making sure that you have like all of your policies and procedures. And if you reintroduce another policy to your staff there after you onboard somebody, making sure that you have a team meeting to discuss that policy and getting everybody to sign it. I know it sounds like a lot. It sounds like a lot. It sounds like a whole bunch of gems. And we like, oh, you talked about this? Yeah, I did. But let me drill it to you that you need to make sure that every policy, every procedure, everything, every way of being at Time for Change or at your company is your way. Every policy, every procedure needs to be your way, and everybody needs to know it. Everybody needs to know it. So if you're developing a policy and procedure, guess what? You better have a team meeting, because thereafter you let somebody go. Because we talk about the work transitions as well, but we talk about the human resources, what you need to do when you onboard staff. So if you're not onboarding staff, the people that came in before these people is not going to know the policy after these people. So you need to make sure that you always are communicating all the time. So don't hold back information, okay? You want to make sure that you assign like mentors, buddies as you get bigger. Schedule regular check-ins every 90 days with your new employees, with your old employees, making sure you communicate. And this is when you get bigger. Provide tools employees need to succeed. So, the human resources, like I issue equipment if people need equipment. I issue headphones if people need headphones, different things like that. So you want to be thinking about, like, even if you had your cleaning business, or even if you had people working for you, like, what does that look like? What's some things that you would want to give to them so that they could be effective, right? So don't leave employees to figure everything out on their own. A lot of businesses do this and they wonder why they don't have nobody working for them. So don't leave it so that people got to figure these things out on their own. Now, you do want to have experts in the field of whatever it is that they're going to have. You want to, or they're going to work in. You want them to be experts, right? But all of the onboarding policies and procedures and everything of how they do things in the building, you should be able to. They should already know. You should be walking them through and training them and all of that good stuff. So please do that. Don't overload them in a lot of information in one day. Usually when I'm onboarding, it takes me about 2 hours to just talk to them for a little while. And then I would schedule another 2 hours. I try to make sure that I break it up because I want them to slow walk into it and also just not feel overwhelmed. So don't ignore feedback from new hires. Sometimes new hires come in and they're fresh. They're a fresh set of eyes. They're looking at things. They're trying to pay attention to all of these things. And you want to make sure that whatever they say is important and they feel like it's important, right? So the psychological aspects of that is that if I feel like whatever you say is important, then that means we're going to be moving in the right direction together. And that means that we can actually grow together. So you want to make sure that you're paying attention to any input or any things that they may say. And they might not say anything, but they might like the environment where they really work. But you want to make sure that you're paying attention to all of them. And don't delay access to equipment and different things like that. If that's something that they need, then you need to have it. You need to supply that. We already talked about communicating honestly and consistently, being very consistent, right? As I said that in the last show. Listen actively to employee concerns. Anything that people bring up, you want to make sure that you're actively listening and turning on your ear. Encourage respectful feedback and address workplace conflicts early and maintain confidentiality in handling sensitive information. These are all the things that we said, but the don'ts. Do not ignore the complaints because it's your way or no way. So you need to be listening to these people. Don't do that to them. You need to be listening to everybody who works for you because you might learn something. I always tell people, humiliate me so that I know the answer because you taught it to me. Humiliate me. Tell me. And people don't like when I say that word, but it's honest to God truth. If I don't know it, I don't know it. I want you to be able to tell me whatever it is that you need to tell me. So I ain't ignoring it. All right. Show favoritism. So don't show favoritism to certain people. You want to make sure that when you are talking to all your people, you talking to all of them the same way. You cannot share confidential information, employee information. It's nobody's business who wants to, get paid. This is how much this person get paid. This is how much this program is getting paid. This is how much this is or this is when this person starts. So we could have work anniversaries, we could have birthdays and different things like that. But yeah, all of the business, the weeds, the contracts, the this, the that, that's between you and that person. Effective HR listens, investigates, communicates, and have expectations. And works with any management for solutions. So, I don't know how big you will get, how big you want to be, but that's a gem that you need to keep in mind. Human resources is like a little person that's going to be acting in your agency, and you need to be able to still deliver the things that you want to human resources so that they could develop those policies and procedures that you need. So the don'ts in compliance and ethics, right? Because we talked about that. So do not ignore harassment or discrimination complaints. Retaliate against employees who report concerns or overlook documentation or assume policies don't need regular updates. And those are all things that we talked about. You need to update staff every time you make a policy, and you need to have policies in your organization or in your business of whatever that you choose to do. Your operating procedures is the most important thing that you will ever create. So you might as well, and it's going to be, I don't even know how many pages. I think Time for Change might be up to 40 different policies or 60. It might even be 60 different policies. And that's where we're up. And some of them policies are multiple pages. But every time we have a policy, this is something that we have to do. I have to communicate and I have to say, hey, you need to sign this policy. And if you don't have time to create it, then you need to have regular team meetings so that you can communicate this, because everybody needs to be acting in the same way. All right. You want to make sure that you don't tolerate toxic behavior, ignore employee burnout, The one thing that I do at Time for Change is we have a before the storm happy hour. I said this before. And we have an after the storm. The reason why is because I acknowledge that we're going to be burnt out over the summer, okay? Because we have a whole lot going on. And because we have so much going on, we have to make sure that we're good, right? So we want to make sure that everybody's nourished, everybody's thoughts and their psyche is still on the same page as it was before all of that work came. But getting the culture geared up for understanding that the work is about to be heavy is so helpful, because everybody knows, all right, we get into place, we up now, right? And so now we relaxing. Now we know when our relax time is. So even my company knows the seasons. Even they know the seasons of business. They know when it's going to be cranking. They know when we're going to be writing a whole lot. And man, when the government throw us off, like when they don't tell us exactly, like, or they don't do their stuff in their seasons, it throws us off. It throws us off. The whole agency be like, what? Oh, we got this the right. Miss Tanya got this the right, that the right. She ain't even seen us. She got this the invoice for this, that. Yeah. Because somebody threw a wrench in the daggone seasons. But the staff knows how it's going, right? They know, like, this the before the staff happy hour, this the after staff happy hour. We planning right now an event, you know what I'm saying? After we finish everything in the summer. So, you know, that is what you got to do. You got to be a leader and understand the process. So, yeah, we got to understand the process, all right? So a couple of things to take away from this, right? It's to hire thoughtfully. We already talked about that. Onboarding intentionally. Communicate openly. Manage performance consistently. So this is a big one, y'all. Because a lot of when you get busy and when you're a small company, you don't sit down and tell a person if they're doing a good job or not. You don't sit down and say, hey, you know what? Your performance is really good. You don't say, hey, like, you've been working here for 90 days. Let me tell you how I know this. You want to make sure that you are having those types of conversations. I don't care if it's just you and that person working. If you are the leader, you need to be the leader and you need to give them that feedback. And if you're not working in a place that's not doing that, then you don't need to work for them either. And I'm going to just say that flat out, because everybody should be giving good advice. Giving good feedback to the individuals that work for them. You're so thankful that this person is working for you. I know I am. I'm so thankful that people choose to work for Time for Change Consulting, Droppin Gems. I'm so thankful because you are making a choice to work for me, right? And so I can appreciate that, but that is something that everybody has got to pay attention to. Everybody has got to pay attention to that. You cannot ignore when somebody is making a fluid commitment to what you decided to create. That is the whole point of having a fluid system of human resources. You decided to create this, and then somebody else decided to work for you. Those people are special, regardless of if they're there for a year, if they're there for 6 months. They're special because they chose to work for you. So value that, honor that in different ways. And that's what I tend to do. And it works well because people work for me for a significant amount of time. And then I build relationships for the people thereafter. So you want to make sure that you invest in the workplace culture. Investing in the workplace culture is so important. And we've talked about that. Like, I love, our Time for Change shirts, but I also was like, you know what? My staff need polos. Like, and so that they can walk around in. Well, that's what I paid for. I invested in a different type of shirt. I'm going to be doing another different type of shirt, for my old staff, for staff that used to work for me, because I think that it's important for them to feel honored. Even though if they don't work for me now, I still should be able to acknowledge them. Pins that I give them, thank yous that I give them. My 10-year, I had purchased my 10-year employee season tickets. Like, just because I'm so thankful for the work that they chose to do for me. You know, work is not easy. But when somebody chooses to do work for you, right? They choosing to buy into your dream, your accomplishment, your things that you were thinking about when you were here watching Droppin Gems. They chose to work for you. They chose to clean for you. They chose to fix a building for you. They chose to do all of these things for you. And when you don't lose focus of that, when you acknowledge that on a bigger picture, people appreciate it and they hang in there. People appreciate it and they hang in there. And I ain't making this up. Like, you know, I have people that have hung in there. I have people that was about to quit, but they be like, well, I'm going to give Miss Tanya 6 more months just because even if I work part-time, just because. That says something, that means something, and you know, that's priceless. So regardless of anything, they cared a little bit about my well-being and Time for Change well-being as a company and as a business. They cared about the people that we service. They cared about them that much that they hung in there and they shift their schedules and they change different things just to make that work. Shout out to all Time for Change staff too. I'm just so thankful for y'all. As your boss and human resources specialist, I'm just so thankful for all of my employees. And that's the culture that I've tried to push through. Don't be afraid to acknowledge your blessings, right? Because remember, we talked about this being spiritually connected. These people are walking a walk of life with you. So don't be afraid to buy them a shirt or buy them something that will acknowledge how much a pen or acknowledge how much they mean to you. Consider doing something with them and taking them out to eat. Like, you know, these are small things, but it's big to them. They remember going out to dinner with me for the first time, the second time, the third time, the fourth time, the fifth time. They value that because of where we went. So just think about that. You know, that makes a difference. I would like to thank you for dropping gems every other Tuesday at 6 p.m. I would like to thank you for taking the time out to listen to these do's and don'ts, because it's so important for you to know the do's. And I was dropping them in the other show before this one, but I wanted to make sure that I told you the do's related to the don'ts, because you need to understand how to move. This is a dance. This is a dance. This is a dance. And it ain't a two-step. It ain't a two-step. It's a lot of steps. So you have to make sure that you are paying attention to every move that you make. And remember, the biggest gem, I believe, in this show was the foundation. How you start is how you finish. So even if you're really, really small and you're an entrepreneur and you have one other person or 2 other people working for you, know that everything that you put in those 2 people or those 1 person at the very beginning is how you shape everything else moving forward. I would like to thank you for joining me. Please like, subscribe, and follow. All right, at Time for Change Consult. Droppin Gems loves having you by. I will talk to you next time. All right, have a good day.